first day of March here in 2025. We thank you so much for waking up and connecting with us with the Mastermind call, the Dreammakers Network. So excited all the time to have this chance to connect with you guys and just, take a second out of all the stuff that we've been doing, everything that's gone on this week, even the stuff you got to do and later today, So we're just thankful for this moment to be able to wake up early, 7 o'clock Eastern time, and connect and just do something that is important for you. And if you're here for the first time connecting with us, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time, appreciate your energy. My name is Byron Deese, founder of the Dreammakers Network, and it's just awesome to think about this call. And we've been hosting this mastermind call since 2012, and we're now in what year? 2025. So it's that in of itself is crazy. You think about, it seems like 2012 was just the other day, not too long ago, and now we're almost 13 years into hosting a call that focuses specifically on personal development, and I think it's important for us to talk about why the mastermind and personal development is so important for each of us as individuals, but as we're raising families and businesses and communities and ministries, when we think about personal development and the journey that we're on, I mean, we can talk about journeys now, it's almost 13 years, but the day-to-day work of progress, and I think that at the end of the day, that's what we're really focusing on, how to manage the day-to-day swings of life with the objective of progression. And so that's kind of, when you think about it from a just very 101 elementary perspective, that this is a call that tries to, really move all the other, tactical activities out of the way and connect the mind and spirit back to your intention of progress. And progress in what form? And that's when it really matters what matters to you. What does progress look like for you? Not what society says progress should look like. Not what even your parents outline as progress for you. But as an individual, you can connect the dots between what you learned, what you see, what you hear, and what was given to you as you entered this world, and bring all those things together to identify your objective and what you identify as progress for your life. And it's important for us to have these moments to just remember that. Our society is designed in a way where we can get easily caught in the rat race, in the act of being busy. I never forget, I was talking to one of my mentors, and he was telling me, he said, man, I saw a good brother the other day, man, and I see him a lot, and I try to catch him whenever I can. And so when I called him the other day, I said, man, what's been going on, man? How you doing, man? He's like, just busy, man, just real busy. He's like, well, how's that working out for you? How's being busy working out for you? When we think about what are we busy doing, what is it that keeps us, just nonstop, if you will. And I would hope that some of the things that you're doing are things that you truly want to do, not checking off boxes that you believe you should check off. But at some point in this life experience, we are actually spending time pursuing and involved in, which is probably the most important piece, to spend time in this life involved in the things that truly, essentially matter to you, that you identify as progress for your life. And so when we think about the term personal development, that really comes into what is it that's helping you to keep your mind and your spirit focused on the growth and development and well-being of your life. And that is really at the core what this mastermind call is all about. As a Dream Makers Network, we started this network for the purpose of connecting with like-minded people, to have an opportunity to share and learn and do business and participate in each other's activities and community activities and build relationships with families and friends. And we've done that. And it's just been a blessing. I can't even lie. I mean, and when I think about this from a personal perspective, I would say I don't need new friends. I was telling somebody else that the other day, and they were, trying to, kind of coax their way into getting me to do different things. I was like, I don't need new friends. I have some of the most special people who are a part of this network and ultimately came together purely through just like-minded energies, if you will. And didn't take long for me to realize that I think I'm good on friends. These folks who are part of this network and have been associated with this network over the years are just kind of the best of the best, and not only just in what they do in careers and in the community, but just the people you want to associate with. And I'm thankful if that was it alone, then I would just be completely happy that we even started this deal. but it is clear that there's more has been gained than just friendship through the act of pursuing and connecting with like-minded people. And so I can tell you right now, if we would have stopped today, the purpose would have been met. It has been met over the years, but we ain't stopping. And it's so much work to do. There's so many more people to reach. There's the spirit of intentionality of a group like this and the people who are associated with it, to be able to reach those and address issues. And, it's just the evolution of a group like this is really exciting. The more I think about it, and even in entering certain rooms and being a part of conversations on challenging issues, I think about this group. I think about the people, who have expertise in certain areas. And it's one thing to have expertise, but it's another thing to have character. And when you combine character with expertise, that's a powerful thing. And I will tell you, knowing the folks who are part of this network and your intentions, really makes me feel confident in walking into any room to address an issue, whatever it is, and say, I think we have some folks who can help with this, or even sometimes, how when I remember as a kid, and my grandmother would talk about, I hope you feel those prayers. I hope you feel that there's a protection, of a spirit of protection over you. I feel that, and I feel that, not just because of those early prayers from grandmama and and all of the old saints, if you will, but from this particular network of just contemporaries who are, well, just about that life, man. And so I'm thankful for all of you. For the folks who are here for the first time and new to this network, I'll tell you, I'm excited for you. I'm truly excited for you because it could be the case that you have really wanted to connect with folks who, you know, who don't have an ulterior motive other than seeing you succeed. I can confidently tell you, after almost 13 years of being associated with this network and these folks, that they only care about seeing you succeed. That's the objective. And sometimes it's hard to believe. Sometimes it's hard to believe because you're usually around people who have a different motive, right? It's like, the one-upmanship, and I can't really stand it, but I'm gonna smile on their face today, and all that jazz, But this is, I will be honest with you. This is whenever we're in this space, or even if it's just a one-on-one engagement with anyone from this network, is probably when I'm at my most peaceful space, because I know that I can free my brain and energies of protection, because folks may be trying to kind of sneak in one way or another and cause harm, if you will. But that is not the case here, and so I'm thankful for that, and looking forward to hearing from you guys on today's call, as it's been catch up on the week, catch up on the month, and everything that's been going on in your life since our last call in early February. So thank you for connecting and joining with us this morning. And we look forward to hearing from you on today's call. Well, we're in March. I'm personally excited again because this is my birthday month. So I'm always excited in March. But as we take a second and take a look back at the month of February, and February is always a very cool month, I think, because it's it's Black History, and so there's always activities and events and just cultural efforts, if you will. This has been an interesting month because Black History has definitely been on attack mode, right? This month, this year, if you will, and probably going forward. Which, to be honest with you, I'm confident in the people who truly are the curators and of our history, and who are doing their own unique efforts. I think that it's these times that we're going through that is creating change, and we are in a moment of change right now. And I think that it's important to be clear as to what we're experiencing from a societal and from a national perspective. That it's things that are just kind of shaking up the norms in every facet that we can think of. Shaking up the norms in government, shaking up the norms in business and in decorum and professionalism. Shaking up the norms in aspects that, if you are under the age of 60, you probably hadn't really experienced anything like this, and definitely under the age of 50. But folks who can at least remember prior to, integration, and can remember the social norms of that time, can definitely say, okay, seems like the clock is turning back, if you will. But there are so many things that we can look to and say, this is never. I think it's that whole piece of, there's never a time to really be fearful. It's only a time to use what God has given you to protect your interests and to progress your objectives. And I think that's where we are. And so, it is, I look at any of these situations as a blessing. There's no moment for us to just lay down and, let whatever happens happen. But we are truly creators, and it's exciting to know that and put it to work. This has been just, it is. I will say, one brother told me, he said, "Man, I've had it with the Jedi mind tricks." He's like, you're not about to keep Jedi mind tricking me. But I will say it like this, man. We have some real, especially the folks on this call, and I think it's important for us to continue to communicate with as many people as possible, regardless of who they are and what stature and titles they have. It's important to communicate the spirit of personal development and purpose especially when people become fearful or anxious, if you will. I remember when we were going through the pandemic, and it was one of those moments, at least for me personally, where my personal development and spiritual cloaks, if you will, that I had kind of layered on top of everything to protect myself from all of the attacks that this society has, throws at us. And there were times, man, they were poking holes in in everything I'd laid out. But I'm thankful for going through that experience, because, when you go through challenges and you live through it, the objective is to make sure you come out better on the other side. And I can confidently say that I've definitely come out better on the other side through challenge, through adversity, and not giving up, and staying prayed up and staying connected with people who can share and speak into your life. That in many ways is what we're talking about when you are surrounding yourself with people who truly want to see you win, and you stay in the scriptures, you stay in the books, you stay connected with mentors. You keep your heart always prepared to give and invest in somebody else's life. And we just keep rocking that until our last day. And that is how when I look at this past month, that it was clear to me. I said, okay, this is it. We're here. We're back to, or at least another opportunity for us to really activate and put what we know and understand to work. And we never let a crisis go to waste. And we talked about that on our last call, with the spirit of sowing and reaping, and being an ambitious sower, and allowing that to really stay at the front of your thoughts, of being an ambitious sower of excellent seed. And that's something that we have to at least don't forget, that what you have is excellent seed. And maybe we've never heard that phrase before, because it's one thing to be an active sower and doing the work of what you were called to do. If you know that you have a special gift of service, or a special gift of technology, or cooking, or speaking, or singing, or whatever it is that you have a special gift at doing, it's unique for you, that over the years you've worked on that thing to have it become just a special gift. It was a talent at one point in time in your life, and you kind of use it whenever, you use it from time to time, and as a kid, you kind of would show off with it a little bit, and you had your talents. And then you got to a point you realized you needed it, and needed to go through the process of making it better, making it more, perfecting what it is that you have. And at this stage of our life, it's important for us to feel confident about the seeds that we have, those special gifts, those burning, those things about you that is a gift from God, and that you've had over the years. But then there are times when you have truly desires to make something better, to address an issue, and you're trying to figure out, is this the time to use the gift? Is this the time to use your seed? And the answer is yes. And to be an ambitious sower with excellent seed. And so in our last call, we talked about that. And I think it's important for us to continue to remember to use your excellent seed to make a difference, and use it as a strategy piece in your plight, in all the things that you're working on. And I had a call the other day, and sister was really kind of going back and forth, wasn't sure if the next move that she was planning to make was the right move. And I'm glad she called, because as I'm listening to her, I'm like, you have excellent seed, and you have it. You have it in your equation to use, but you're not confident in using it. You're saying to yourself, I could do this, but I'm also thinking, I could do those things too. And my point is that this is a time for those of us who know we have something special to just be confident and do it. Don't be ashamed of your greatness. Don't be ashamed of those special things about you that is unique to everyone else. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't be bashful, if you will, because you know that you're getting ready to make a difference. And sometimes in our unique makeup, and maybe the way we were raised, maybe some early experiences, kind of hinders us from taking the lead or stepping out and showing, your gifts. But I want to truly say, and for the purposes of this call, that your gift right now is more important than ever before. I cannot even begin to communicate how important your gift is right now, and how important it is to be seen and felt in today's society, especially as we're going through a change in all the things that we understand as normal. There are a lot of people who are so still in the politics of it all, that they don't recognize the change, and it's like completely beyond their thoughts. And it's we have to I've had some rough conversations. I was trying to think about the last time we talked. As for those of you who don't know, I'm in wealth management and work with families in financial planning. And in many cases, a lot of our clients are business owners, but we also work with employees and retirees. And this month has been, on a much more personal level, particularly in business, probably one of the most challenging months I've experienced in business. And not so much from my bottom line situation, but more so with my clients and the diversity of clients that I have, and their bottom line, which ultimately could reach my bottom line, right? Because if they lose their livelihood, then they can't pay for my services. Then that becomes a bottom line issue for me too. And so we have to be able to see and understand kind of the domino effect of a lot of these decisions that are happening. But I have clients who have been, just a lifelong Republicans, and never voted any other way. And just mainly from a political, stature perspective, that's their approach, and was raised that way, and so, so these are folks who voted, straight down the ticket for all their voting life. And some who have businesses that have been greatly affected just because of the cuts in the federal spending. And I'm going to stop using the word cuts, because over the years we talk about cutting the budget, if you will. This is not cuts. These are complete hatchet jobs, right? So we're not cutting, we're chopping, right? the people who, who voted, Republican all the way down, um, and who have lost federal contracts, have lost even private contracts where that corporation that they were partnering with lost a federal contract. So the domino effect goes down. And just to see the confusion, some of the despair, what should I do now? I can't believe this. I defended, I put so much of my thought and energy into all of these things. And to see where they are, and to have those kind of conversations day after day after day after day. And then not to mention, we talked about our, African-American clients who are being affected through just some of the DEI policies. And so the one thing that I have to always share in those situations is that, you were able to use your excellent seed to create and build, these multi-million-dollar entities. You're able to do it, and was able to add value to your current situation. This change in policy does not steal your excellent seed. It just means that somebody else needs to know about that excellent seed that you have. And you have to be ambitious in your approach of communicating it. And what's interesting, and I'm just kind of sharing, this is kind of me now sharing my month, and then we'll open up the call for folks to kind of talk a little bit about what they've been doing and what's going on your side. But this is now, it's interesting because some of these folks were eyeing retirement, right? And maybe the next 5 to 10 years. And in some of these conversations, some will agree with me. Yes, Dees, I am thankful for my excellent seed, but I don't have the energy to be an ambitious sower anymore. So yes, I think what we have is great, and I love the fact that I'm operating something that is a true passion of mine. But I don't have the energy to be an ambitious sower, to go out and do the work to rebuild something that I've already built. And I like when folks are honest that way, because what that means, especially depending on your capacity, if you're a business owner and you're saying, I just don't have it, to do that level of work again. And I said, well, this may be an opportune time to prep your business for sale. And let's create a liquidity event right now. Let's not wait, 5-10 years from now to say I'm gonna retire at 60 or 55. Let's prep the business now. Let's just tweak what's going on and make it attractive to an investor and sell it and become independently wealthy right now. Let's do it. And it's interesting because when, I don't think a lot of folks were ready for that answer, right? So at least that suggestion. And it's so interesting because, I've been using the term excellent seed, but as soon as I say it's time to sell it, folks say, whoa, that's my baby, right? This is not this is my seed, right? And this is my excellent seed. It's my baby. It's like my little daughter or whatever. These businesses that they just, I've raised it. It's growing up. It's now, flourishing, but somebody just hit my baby and I got to take care of her. I was like, well, listen, that's one way to look at it. So that is one way to look at it. But I think that it is important, and I try to share this, especially with our business clients, that, at the end of the day, that beautiful, excellent seed baby you've built as a business and employed people and all that, this is an investment. And you've been an operator of that investment for X amount of years, but now it's time for liquidity event and start fresh and, identify and let's articulate what the next phase looks like. And we are in that space now that is important for us to become financially confident in what we have and our expense management, our investments, our assets. The era of excess spending is over. So for folks who, man, but I love that Benz or all of that stuff, listen, that has to take a second. That has to take a second fiddle to asset creation, and I would say more importantly, financial independence. Financial independence is becoming more important now than ever before, particularly for Black folks, but not just Black folks. Period. I would say particularly for anyone who was had identified themselves as middle class, and if the source of your income, is definitely, if the source of your income is W-2 and you work for somebody, doing whatever you can do to become financially independent and restructuring your financial habits is premier right now. That is the most important thing that should be in terms of your day-to-day objectives. That needs to move up in the priorities. If you're a business owner, the question is, who are your contracts? And who is your ecosystem? Who's buying your stuff? And at what level of the domino effect does it reach your bottom line? So this is the time for us to be much more conscious of what's happening economically in our personal finances, and to shift more energy to asset creation and development and growth, and minimize excess spending, and really put a stronghold on expense management, because this is just this is a shift, and it's difficult. It's a lot easier to forecast the future when all things remain constant. It's going to do as it did last year, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. But when the policy shifts and the objectives change and the priorities of our societal norms change, then it's a bit more, the roadmap, the long term is a bit more unclear. So it's important to protect what you have and get focused on how you plan to grow and build and add to, and use that excellent seed to take it to the next level. And I'll say this one last piece, and then we'll open up the call, is when we talk about excellent seed, I think it is extremely important to, number one, stand tall on what you are good at. Stand tall on what you identify as your excellent seed, and then watch the tea leaves of where things are going. What is your next opportunity for growth in this spirit of change? Because change is happening. So how do you use your excellent seed to capitalize on the change? Like we say, never let a crisis go to waste. And so when these crises happen, somebody's going to get rich. I'm just here to tell you right now, somebody is going to maximize the opportunity of change. When people are fearful and you have the excellent seed to bring calm and clarity to a situation, folks will pay for that. They will flock to whatever it is that you have to resolve these situations, or just bring them some level of peace. I can't even begin to tell you how important it is to stand tall on your excellent seed and watch the tea leaves as it relates to where the new opportunities are for you to leverage your excellent seed, acquire something, or get in front of of an opportunity to really create financial independence. So this is that shift from quote unquote excess spending to investment and growth. And I promise you this, 2, 3, 5 years from now, if you do this, you will remember this call. You will remember this conversation that we're having right now to have made that shift to investment and to finding the opportunities. Because again, when I can just give you another example during the pandemic, and there were a host of CPA firms that were just getting out of the business, primarily because the legislation in the CARES Act, the legislation in the American Relief Act, both of those policy shifts, or those bills, were really tax bills that were showing business owners and folks how to get access to relief, and how to get access to the information. And so, this was an opportunity for the business owners, and particularly in the CPA space, that if you saw those other, accountants who wasn't up to speed on the legislation, that was an opportunity to say, hey, listen, why don't you bring your book of business into our firm, or we can acquire your business and give you a payout and you can go off and retire. And watch companies grow and grow and grow and grow, primarily because the crisis created extra work for some people who just didn't want to do it. They didn't have the energy to do it, and going back to that other point I mentioned, it was, folks who were kind of eyeing retirement. They saw it 5-10 years away. And then a crisis happened right before we get to that point, and they're like, I just don't want to go through it. Opportunity to buy something. Opportunity to buy something, to buy excellent seed. You have your excellent seed, but they have theirs too. What if you bought it and let that continue to produce cash flow at a growing rate? So there's opportunity, and the people who have the balance sheet, the people who have the money number one, the people who are paying attention. That's first off. The folks who are paying attention will see it, and if they're paying attention and they have the money, they will benefit from this change. And I'll tell you like this: if you're paying attention and you don't have the money, you still may be able to benefit from this, because there are some folks who would lend you the money just so you can go and buy the business or whatever the opportunity is. So I'm highlighting these things, and we'll open up the call here, but I want to make sure that everyone who's on this call and who's going to participate in this call, and listen to it later, that we recognize how to use your excellent seed during crisis time. When everyone is fearful, you're jumping in, looking for the opportunities that line up with your core, with the DNA of your excellency. When I say the DNA, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But being able to really stay away from surface level conversations. Don't engage. There's so many people who are just kind of watching the news and talking. Don't engage. You can pay attention, and you can, again, we are watching tea leaves, right? So we are paying attention and we're observing what's going on. Especially if, here's a good example. If you run into someone who's having a surface level politics or surface level economic conversation with you, but they run a great organization, or they have an investment that looks like they're ready to throw in the towel, if you will, you should rub your hands together on that one, because now you may see an opportunity to get in the game and buy something that could really add value to your bottom line. So, more of the story. This month has been, it's one of those months where we take a look back and we highlight the things that have happened and what do we observe from what happened. And I'll say that it is, I've had to double down on some of those books that really shared stories about how they move during crisis times. And even if you just go back through history and just look at points of economic and geopolitical crisis, who were the ones who were still, growing during that time? And so history is a great asset right now because we can go back and understand what they did during those times to be successful and come out stronger on the other side. And so there's opportunity here. And I just want to make sure for the purposes of this call, as we outline the structures and strategies involved in personal development, helping you stay in a progressive space relative to the things that you're working on, that we keep our eyes open and we stay confident and optimistic because we know we have excellent seed and we are aware that opportunities are popping up every day. So that's what's been going on this side. We'll take a second to open up the call now. Anybody have any questions, comments, observations, things that's been going on your side, good, bad, and the ugly that you'd like to share? We'll take a second and open up the call now.
Hey, Byron.
Good morning. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy everything, and happy early birthday.
Thank you.
I have to say that the timing of this conversation couldn't have been better. It's funny. I read a book last month. I can't remember what it was called, but it was around sort of resetting. And one of the activities that was key to that book is this idea of tracking your time. And what came out of it is we really have more time than we know. And because we don't pay attention to it, we end up wasting it. And so for those who really know me, everyone just thinks, oh, she's busy, right? And when I look at my life, I'm like, I'm really not busy. I choose what I spend my time on. But it was mind-blowing for me when I sort of went through that activity, and I was able to come out with about 90 hours of time in a week that I could spend on something besides what I use for, family and sleep and work and, just the basic things that, that happen in life. And I looked at 90 hours and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is 2 full, 40-hour weeks and more. And so I've been thinking really hard to say, okay, what am I going to spend these 90 hours on? And so when you talk about just opportunities, the conversation could not have come at a better time for me. I'll tell you that when I saw the posting and it said DNA, I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know. What's in my DNA? But as I think about this conversation that you just had and the fact that a lot of people are going to be exiting, and that means opportunity for, those who have the time and the energy to do something. I'm just super excited. And, in my head, I'm like, Brian, where are these people? Where are the businesses? Let's look at them. Let's see what we can buy. And it's so exciting in that way. I've also been, listening to some of what's going on, and obviously very heartbroken for those who are grieving in one way, shape, or the other. But my general optimism has, put me in a space where I really can't sit with the loss and, have maybe been somewhat on the same wavelength of you in that, okay, so where's the opportunity and what do we need to do? So I appreciate you for sort of shedding light on it in this way. And I'm, not just excited for myself, but I'm excited for all of us on this call because it's almost another COVID, right? And we have the playbook, we've seen history, and now we're sitting at the cusp of making those right decisions so that when we look back 2 and 4 years from now, you know, we've built those assets, we've acquired stuff, and are now at the frontier of, you know, that significant wealth creation. So definitely open to opportunities and ideas, especially, you know, if it's in the oil sector, even better, but even beyond that, just opportunities to acquire businesses and spend more time doing, you know, good stuff and creating wealth. So thanks for sharing that.
Now, well, listen, let's schedule time to lock in. I'll tell you the truth. And for those of you who don't know, you know, Adirondacke, I remember 20 years ago, we were in Philadelphia and I never forget this. And we were all, you know, young professionals and staying in different locations. And she's like, oh, I just bought a property off of XYZ in Philly. I was like, we were kind of, wait a second, thinking about the market, you know, the area where she said she bought properties. So I was like, what in the world? Why are you buying properties over there? I was like, I was just over there.
Y'all used to call me Slum Lord.
I'm like, what? And that was 20 years ago. And listen, she understood what so many people can go through life and never understanding is that you're buying cash flow. You know, these are people have to have somewhere to live. And she bought the property for rental purposes. And you're buying cash flow. And the same principle applies when you're buying a business. You know, you may not know anything about the business. And it might, I mean, literally, you know, you could buy a dog food company if you've never owned a dog, like don't even have pets, don't even like animals, right? But you see the cash flow, you see the history of it and the potential. And the potential, which identifies how much you will buy that company for. You know, and so you're really using kind of, it's an investment at the end of the day, you know, so, you know, you're trying to figure out, do I need to do anything to keep this cash flow rolling? You know, do I need to fix this up? Do I change this person? Do I bring in some people here? Or is it just rolling in it? And if it's just rolling in with the expectations of growth even more, hey, I need to raise some more money so I can buy it at a higher clip, you know, so this is the time. And I'll tell you the truth, man, this month, I've had folks call me about deals that I didn't have the investors for. I don't have the, let me just say it that way. I don't have the investors. I'm saying to the big challenge for me is, Dees, get your stuff together, man, and go get the right people. Like, make sure people know what's going on. Connect with more investors, people who may have, and then don't get, you know, weird about identifying who potential investors are. Like, at the end of the day, you know, investments can come in many forms, you know, and so that's really my personal charge, because I'm thankful and to have to, in terms of this month, you know, you have to save face though, because it's a tough pill to swallow when somebody calls you and they think that you're the answer. You know, they call you and say, Dees, all right, man, so this was going on. Like, we got this deal over here and we need a new LP on it. And so they need to raise like 25 million. And so let's do it. I brought you in, let's go. And I'm like, yeah, okay, nice. I was like, hey man, I'm kind of busy right now. I got a lot of stuff going on. I can't really address it. The truth is, I didn't have the investors, right? And because especially when you start thinking about all of the different things that are going on, you have people, we've kind of directed investment toward, you know, vacation rentals. And then you got these new opportunities that folks are trying to raise money to buy businesses. And then there's stuff going on at your college. And I'm like, I gotta increase my investment pool. So that's my big charge. So let's talk really, because I think there's so much opportunity. And I think even at the end of the day, you know, I think for anybody who's listening, and we'll hear this later, it's just really important to start, and we'll talk more about this DNA aspect of it, but it's really important for us to begin to look at almost everything as an investment opportunity. Just really take a step back. And we're not talking, it doesn't have to be millions of dollars. I mean, you can just, what do I want to invest in? And what are the things that you kind of already know and understand? And even if it's things that you don't know and understand, but you would love to just have some unique, assets in your portfolio that has that has good cash flow. Even if that's the case, but this is the time to really start prioritizing these type of conversations and meeting with other people who, spend some time with business owners. Grab some folks for coffee just to, what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of change right now. What's going on in your business, and what are your thoughts on your business and retirement? And I've had conversations with folks who've run businesses for decades, never even thought that exiting was an option, that it was the only options that they thought they had was to just continue to work until they died, or hopefully, little Johnny was going to want to do the business and they'll take it over, and hopefully they'll keep you on payroll, until your last day. And that's the retirement strategy for a lot of these small business owners. They hadn't even, flirted with the concept of exit and selling their companies. One, because again, they look at their companies as their babies. So that's one, that's the big hurdle. But the other, and which is something that we don't talk about a lot, and this isn't just in the Black community, this is a lot of in the middle class community, right? There are a lot of business owners who are terrified of debt. And so they don't have any debt on the books. So which is also why their companies don't grow. They stay and they run a kind of consistent business that pays the bills and maybe have a worker, can hire a couple of people, but they've never been kind of in growth mode because they don't want to even associate with debt. And the reason I bring that up is because in most cases, to even the conversations around exit and selling a business comes from investors or bankers, or people who either talking about putting debt into your business to grow it or equity, so those conversations aren't even happening. So I would just say, just spend some time talking to people who run companies, see how they're feeling, because this is the moment. This is a change moment that we're in. And we can either sit back and watch it all happen, and in 5 years from now, we're like, man, what's the name? Made so much money. I heard you actually bought a business or something like that, and we just talked about it, and we lived 5 years. We lived through it, but we didn't make any money through it. And that's the point. We have to keep our eyes open, initiate conversations. And then and here's the other part. And this is, you can cheat, right? So you can initiate a conversation and with somebody who you may think is going to talk over your head about whatever they do in the whole nine. And then you can just blame it on me. You can say, hey, so I have a team of guys who are my advisors on these things. If you have some additional questions, let's talk about it, right? You can always say, I got a team of guys. And then, oh, wow, you got a team? So because the truth is you do. I mean, this, the resources that we have is the resources that you'll have. And so, but this is the time. I mean, I don't even know any way to talk about it. This is the time. And I thought it was important to have this conversation now because essentially this is early. This is kind of early stage. We're going to see a lot of activity happening. You're going to see mergers and acquisitions happen, on the big scale, on the global corporate scale. Those things, this is the season. They over the past 5, plus years, the M&A activity has been down, and so there are a lot of folks who don't even like Trump, who run those companies are still excited about the potential on the business side. But it's going to happen also in the small business side, in the small business sector. And listen, I'm trying to tell you right now, it does not require a whole lot of money to get in the game. So, if that's something you're thinking about, keep thinking about it because you're leaning in the right direction. So let's definitely catch up offline and we can take a dive, because I'll tell you the truth, man. Y'all don't want me to look bad, right? I need investors. That's the truth. Because the more it's only going to take one or two more times. They'll call, say, Deesh, you know what? I thought you had the juice, man, and you don't have the juice. It's like you don't really have these investors that we need to go after. And the thing is, and a lot of it is, you have, especially like on the real estate side, it's a lot of African American developers who are doing more than just kind of the residential, and they're getting into some of these commercial spaces. And capital is dry, man, for a lot of Black developers. I mean, just the relationships, and then even the trust level, if you will. They say, well, how many deals have you done like this? And so it gets real sketchy once you get above a certain market. And so equity is a big objective, say, hey, man, can you help us raise, some money to get in the game, because the banks aren't showing any love. So that is a big plight. That's something that I'm really committed to doing. So I appreciate you sharing that, Adarake, and let's lock our heads together on some opportunities that may be exciting for you. So, all right, let's open up the call. Anybody else? Let's rap about what's going on, man. Like, I know I'm not the only one who's had a wild February. So let's take a second and open up the call now. And regardless of what's going on, I want to really hear it from your perspective. So we'll open up the call now.
Since no one's jumping up like right this second, I'm going to say one more thing to that. It's funny that you remind me of 20 years ago, because I literally have forgotten. But if this is an encouragement to anyone, what he's talking about is a property I bought for $25,000 at that time. I remember vividly all of my friends literally laughing at me, like, why would you do this? Because it was not the most desirable location. It was a girl that inherited the property from her grandmother and had no clue what to do with it, so she just wanted to get it off her hands so she didn't have to think about it, which to me is very similar to what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I bought that property was because it was all I could afford. My peers at that point were buying properties at $100,000, and I just didn't have that cash, right? I didn't have, a parent that was like, financing me and, whatever. But what is beautiful about it is I bought it. There was cash flow immediately. It was nickels, right? But, I think I was making $250 out of it every month.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't have to spend a dime on it. And I don't remember when I sold it. But when I sold it not long after. I mean, several years, but, not 20 years, definitely. Yeah. And I wrapped about $100,000 in profit off of it, not spending a dime on it. And the point there is, like you said, it doesn't have to be a lot, right? I think we were on this call last year. Yeah, we were on this call last year when I had a conversation about this estate I was about to buy in Nigeria. I don't want to say I've never really had a stack of just money sitting, but I never really have had it. Mm-hmm. And the way that I've gotten into some of the things that I've gotten into has been just me stretching, what I would call my, little seed, right? Whatever it was that I had, I put in, and over time, then it begins to look like a big thing. When I bought the estate, I didn't have all the money. I thought it was ridiculous that I was negotiating it. But the owner really wanted to get rid of it. And so we worked out a deal where I could pay him off over 6 months. And so, again, it's back to this encouragement of oftentimes we think we don't have it. where the mindset should be, what do I have and how can I leverage what I have to, get something that's wild and crazy, in terms of dreaming bigger than you dreamed, that is your reality today. So just wanted to leave that encouragement out there that it doesn't have to be a lot to get what you want.
I'm glad you unpacked that deal, because that, again, this was I didn't know the details of it, but the number 25,000 made sense when we were looking at the market at that time. And I don't know why I thought you may have held on to that property longer than that, but the fact that it was a shorter hold and able to ultimately make 100,000 on it, again, and we can have a separate, completely financial conversation, to talk about how it doesn't require a lot of money to invest, especially when you're talking about real estate. And particularly if your objective is to, because a lot of times people think about real estate and they think about real estate from the standpoint of living. I'm gonna buy this house and fix it up and sell it, or pass it down as a generational asset. But the importance of rental income, and cash flow, ongoing cash flow, especially in these moments where we're talking about, well, how do we increase? And we have a lot of real estate professionals on the call right now who can really shed more light on this, but how do we increase our financial position through cash flow, regardless of whatever it is that you're buying, but really spending more time thinking about and getting your arms around, cash flow consistency, cash flow volatility, are the hiccups and why are the hiccups there, things like that. And that's why when you're having conversations, whether it be business owners or whether it be people who own assets that, and they're just going through some stuff. And sometimes it's just that, sometimes I have folks who will call. I had a call earlier this week, and, this sister who is, has run a family business, a cleaning service, government contracts, for almost 40 years. And she's ready to sell. She's in a position where it's time, she's ready to sell. She's ready to make a move, and she needs investors, and so these are the kind of things that we, just connecting dots in that way. And, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be this one person. You can say, hey, wow, how much do you want to sell it for? Well, I can get a couple people and we can put together an LLC and buy it together. And, if the cash flow makes sense for everybody, another deal happened in Martha's Vineyard, and property there, person was moving out, they sold, and it was a LLC was set up. A couple investors came together, purchased the property, but they were always focused on the cash flow, because everyone knows summer season, the cash flow in Martha's Vineyard is ridiculous, right? They're selling these units for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a week, so they're buying the cash flow. So to be able to have these help me understand more about your cash flow conversations over coffee or lunch, that's really kind of the beginning of it. And then you can line up where you are in terms of how did you feel about that conversation? Did you walk away empowered after that conversation, or did you walk away with more questions that may brought a little bit of, may not be for me? Those kind of emotions and having that kind of debrief with yourself is very important, because at the end of the day, we're just talking about adding to your portfolio. You have your 401k, and you have your real estate, and you have your stocks and bank savings and CDs and all that. This is just another piece to that. And so just want to make sure that we're having kind of a clear-eyed conversation on these type of topics, because opportunity's coming, and it's here. I'd be honest, I shouldn't even say coming. It's here. And, this is a good time to start thinking about it and looking inward. Say, what am I going to do? Am I getting in the game, or just going to watch my friends talk about this and benefit? So, yeah. So this is This is a great time. This is a great time. Let's open up the call. Anybody else have any questions, comments, want to dive in? Let's do it. We'll open up the call now. Wow. What's going on, brother? What's going on back there, man? Somebody screaming?
Oh, you there? Yeah, man, that's me, man. Brother D. Hello?
Oh, my man. Oh, man.
Yeah, we screaming.
Oh, man.
You're right, man. You're recording this, sir. You're on live TV right now, sir. Straighten up.
You're straighten up.
Here's what we got.
How you feeling, brother?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. We've been very busy, and it's always, you know what I'm saying, I'm so grateful that the call happens every month. Every month. I was going to start with something else, but since you asked me how I'm feeling, I brought up the call.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, man. I just feel so good, like just listening to the first part of the call, you know, and being, you know, you're self-aware, you know who you are, and I'm kind of listening to myself listen, right? So first you hop on, you know, and you're probably groggy, or you're excited, but this is the first thing you did that day, or the second thing. Now, it worked out, and then right after that, you know, you get with the call, and you start talking, and I just, you know, your brain instantly triggers things that are good, and I just wanted to pause right there. And then you went in right into friendship, right? The beginning part, you know, I have good friends and new friends, and now no new friends when you drink right now, no new friends.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, yo, when I heard, I thought, I was like, man, it is such a blessing to just have people that when you hear their voice, you know that this is something that's going to be beneficial to you and genuine friendship. Like when there's not many people in life, because I talk to a lot of people in a day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's some people that I love and have loved my entire life, you know, as family or whatever, or, you know, but sometimes when they call you or you talk to them, it's 50-50. Or yeah, it could be either one.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it is such a blessing just to have somebody whose voice, and you know, and this call represents that. And obviously you know, but to have somebody that's like, when you hear them, you know, and you can kind of let your guards down. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where I'm always talking about how important a call is to me and how I feel so good about it. But I'm like, you know, to be aware of that is important, and to be grateful for that is even more important. And the fact that it's there is probably the most important thing that it exists. But it's like, you can let your guards down. Yeah. And you can just, you know, breathe in some of that good energy. And yeah. So that's step one. That's how I feel at this very moment. But and then to really hear the story. And then, you know, and then I love how the people on the call, you know, they sprinkle it in. Yeah. They sprinkle it in. So, yeah, man, you know, so try to, if I can just raise $25 million, sprinkle that in, right? You don't have to run to tell me, well, you know, I bought this estate in Nigeria. Excuse me? Yeah, I was telling you a state in Nigeria. Oh, okay. I see. I love that, and it's real. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact, and that is vibration, that's energy. And you know, if you can get that into your spirit, you can apply it to whatever you want to apply it to during the day. It can be anything from on life. It can be anything from getting your own, you know, next door
meeting the significant other that you've been searching for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's all just energy that you can direct. But the bottom line is, it's in here and it's in the call. And I just feel I'm so grateful for that. And it's just free, and then you call people and tell them and send out text messages to come get this good action. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Come get this action, man. But I don't know. All kinds of stuff. And then you talk about my man. I say my man, you know what my man is.
Trump.
My man Donnie T. My man Donnie T got pressed. My man Donnie T is applying crazy amounts of maniac level pressure and from all directions if you care about it.
Yeah.
If you care about it, he is applying it in all kind of crazy directions. So the space that I operate in politically and whatever else is a common sense perspective with a very distrusting eye for all government things, because I am Black and I am aware Black History Month just happened, and don't act like what I'm saying. They just didn't go ahead and break off the ability to vote.
Yeah.
So ease back, Black people. They never loved you, regardless of who they put up there, right? That's my thought about the whole thing, the entire thing. I'm talking about everything from the booth to the voting booth to the inauguration, regardless of who it is. So it allows me to be in a more even state when great things happen or real random things happen.
Yeah.
But and a lot of it I look at with a smirk, and because I'm not in anything, dollars and cents wise, governmental, and it just kind of allows me to. It doesn't affect, like you're talking about my bottom line. Not much, not yet. I know it does, but not like as directly and as extremely as it is some people, right? So I can operate, so I can kind of discerningly and wax the philosophical about things. Oh man, well, people start talking, and this is happening. Well, if you look at tariffs and and all that, right? So I can talk about it, but I'm not really directly involved in it, right? And I just can think about it, right? And that allows it to kind of be on TV for me, right? But the thing that that has happened in the past, I guess over the month, is which I didn't really see because I am so busy. I don't spend as much time with my side of the family that has been on the government tit to the tune of millions and millions and millions of dollars. I'm talking about they're on your W-2 employees who have worked, served their entire life generationally and second and sometimes third generation government employees, and we are in Maryland and all these other things are happening, which I hear. Maryland is the biggest. Maryland and Virginia all work for the government more than any other place. Obviously, that's where they live. Maryland is. There's all the military here. The government is housed there. So, but personally, that doesn't. I'm not in that space. But when I get around the people who I care about, and I can see and hear the conversations when these things are brought up, and it's so tangible. Real life statements like, if this guy fucks with my pension, I'm going down there. You know what I'm saying? Like and it's real, and these are real things. Like very, very real. And I can just see and to see the change from maybe 10 years ago, where walking around with our chest out. I'm getting X amount of dollars. This is life, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying one is bad. I'm just saying that there's a level of confidence and security, and that has been taken away.
Mm.
Maybe not directly, but like, and maybe it hasn't happened yet, or I hope it doesn't happen. But what I'm saying is that fear that we alluded to earlier, and that unknowingness, and that removal of comfortability is real and tangible in my life. So as I enter that space, and all the, you hear the crazy stuff that's happening and the changes and whatever, and then you see it, like boots on the ground kind of thing, grassroots, people who it really affects. It's super disconcerting, right?
Yeah.
Man, it's nothing that, as far as that particular situation goes, I can do other than, and they'll listen, and then also, I don't even want to say provide advice.
Mm-hmm.
That's your stick. That's your stick. Your stick is, hey, listen, I know you got we can move. Well, how much do you have in said pension that you better not touch?
Yeah.
Because you feel me? But first of all, I'm not that reckless with people's money or anything like that to be giving out too much advice. Now, if you ask me what I'm doing, I'll tell you what I'm doing. You want to get on board, and strap up, and let's see if we can make it happen. But to be an example of, and this is what I do in that example, to be an example of positivity and optimism, and to give perspective on for a longer time period is what I might do. So to say, listen, hey, things are happening here. Hey, that's crazy. But there was a time when this whole place. I mean, you went to a segregated school.
Mm-hmm.
So things will change, and we made it through that. You know what I'm saying? You have to trust in the fact that what you've been doing has been right, been on the right path, and you can find some people that can work it out. Let me you might want to talk about it. and then talk about it. They get you like, I need to call these, man. How is it? He's good, man. He's all right. He's in Florida. He actually just bought an estate, and he's living his life. So
he's living his life
next to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, he's living his life. He's very close to Mar-a-Lago now. I think that if you can do that and get close to that, it'll be better for you. But I'm joking, but I'm saying that as far as that particular thing goes, that whole the world, switching, and all that stuff he's bringing out, that was an experience that I'm having, that I had this month, and that I think, for me personally, was more tangible than just personally, it was more tangible than walking up on people and hearing them talk about, DEI or DEI or whatever.
Yeah.
That's just, I get it. I'm talking about something that, was more personal, and I know it affects other people in other ways. I'm sure if I grew up if I was a Ukrainian, my perspective on this whole thing would be totally different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we got, government cuts, then you got people who are DUI, whole places that were fired or whatever, and then you have, the young Ukrainian or the 40-year-old Ukrainian.
Yeah.
Their house may have been bombed, and they're worried about, they're going to be whatever, and it's based on decisions that these same group of people are making. But just since you brought up the whole, volatility, that's been a perspective on it, and I am hopeful people that I care about and I know will navigate this thing well. I mean, I had an actual conversation with, people were talking about that obviously it's a lot of firing going on, but talking about he had to put out there was a report that they were requiring employees to do, and if you didn't meet whatever standard that they said, they were cutting people off. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have the terminology right, but basically that was it, right? Yeah. And I had a conversation with somebody who was like, I got it, I'm sending in that report. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm involved in supporting for this reason, and my life, my house, all these things are tied to that.
Yep.
I mean, so it's a real thing. Right or wrong, it's happening. And then, them saying, hey, I'm like, well, if I was you, I would chat GPT the best level of anything I could ever get in my life onto those reports.
Yeah.
What did I accomplish? Are you crazy? Oh man, I accomplished X, Y. My report will be so long. They'd be okay. First of all, we're firing you because you're lying. But second of all, this is the best report we've ever seen.
Yeah.
That was kind of my response. But I was saying that to say, whatever it is, I would just apply the maximum effort to whatever I'm involved in.
Yeah.
And that is my philosophy about everything that I do. And it still rings true if you are, in my book, it still rings true if you're, a government employee or whatever, or whatever you might be doing, or you're panhandling. I would talk to every car if I was panhandling. I wouldn't let anybody go by. So just because you brought up Trump and all this stuff, he's worth talking about, right? So there you go. I am grateful about the call, and I'm happy that we're on this thing.
Yeah.
I'm very happy.
Listen, man. I mean, I'll tell you like this. It's the emotions that we have to deal with, right? Because in one emotion, we see something that's crazy, and we're like, "Oh my God! Like, I can't believe that was said. I can't believe these things are happening." And then the other emotion is, what opportunities is this creating? Because like that's kind of the next thing. And I know sometimes I have conversations. I have to be careful how I say stuff like that because, I've had a conversation earlier this week and I kind of shift into the opportunity talk, right? And they were like, why would you even think about that? Like, people are losing their jobs, or this is horrible about what the policy shift. And I'm like, hey, all those things are true. But these folks also need some resources. Like, they need another option. They need somebody to say, listen, they need an excellent seed conversation, right? I mean, and that's so important, at least to sow that seed in their brain. And I will tell you, we think about this Dream Makers Network. I don't know the last time you guys went to the Dream Makers Network website, but go to the website and just click around. Like, there are enough for somebody who's in the beginning phase of thinking about, I just lost my job and I really don't know what to do. If you're just at that spot, right? And you say, so somebody told me to go to the Dream Makers Network website, and they just started clicking around. There's enough on that website. First of all, this conversation that we're having right now will be on there as soon as we hang up. So that's it, the resources is there. If you need to start a business, you can click on a link to our partners with Corporate Net. Start the business right there. LLC, set that up. If you need financial advice, click the link, schedule a meeting. You got it right there. If you need a banker, click the link. You need loans, you need grants, all these different pieces. You need legal advice. It's all right there. And we've over the years just continued to build and build and connect and connect and connect. You need a tax advisor. All these pieces are right there. Real estate, right there. So I walk into this moment of crisis feeling optimistic because we've been working over the past several years, for times like this. And to be able to, the thing is, you can have all the resources, but if you don't feel confident about your excellent seed, it doesn't mean anything. You can have it all sitting there right in your face, have all the people supporting you, ready to roll. But if you don't feel good, if you're more willing to wallow in the fact that you lost something that you were used to, for a long time, versus the opportunity to leverage the reason why you had that for so long, the expertise that you have, the excellent seed that you have in your mind and your spirit and your energy. If you're not willing to invest in that, then this week, America's always been kind of a, survival of the fittest place. It's getting ready to go to the next level with that. Like, survivalist, one-upmanship, all that kind of stuff is celebrated and will be even more celebrated going forward. This is, I don't know, I probably should, this is just so important to really double down and on what it is that matters, that has helped you become self-sufficient all this time. And a lot of times we don't think about it that way, especially if you're not an entrepreneur. You may not think about the thing that you know really well because you've been in a system that says, hey, I'm going to pay you this for what you're doing for my company. And then you see other people getting paid more. So then you think that your value and your excellent seed isn't that excellent because they said, we're going to give you this for that. And I can understand why that, that whole psychology behind that can depress your thoughts around your potential. So I can understand that. And that's a real human emotion of why it requires, personal development to really go in and untangle all of that societal, jazz that they put in your head and said that you're only worth this. You say, why are you telling me I'm worth more when these companies have always said I was only worth this? That's the kind of jazz that we have to untangle. We have to pull that stuff apart, and say, listen, that just the societal system that you've been in. But what we're saying to you now is that thing that they've been underpaying you for. And just because you didn't want to rock the way they want to rock and you've been, kind of keeping your head down and doing your thing, doesn't mean that that's what it's worth. Bring that to the marketplace and see what it's worth. I guarantee you the marketplace will give a new value for that. And so, but this is why personal development is important, because without a personal development conversation, there's nothing in your brain, especially if you didn't grow up around entrepreneurs. If you grew up around other people who worked in the system and they parents also worked, for other, there's nothing in your brain that or even your memory bank to say, okay, got it. I know where this works. What you probably have seen actually is people who also work in this, for corporations and the whole nine, or for organizations, and they paid you a certain amount, and there was somebody, an aunt or uncle, or maybe even a parent who said, I'm gonna start something on the side. And you may have watched them fail in entrepreneurship, and they went right back to the comfort zone, of let me go get my good job. And let me just say it this way, because I'm not trying to kind of grease down folks who work because that is real. But I want to just be clear that we have to put people in a position to feel confident about what they have in their hand, about the things that you know and understand is valuable. And we're getting ready to go into a season. It may not be forever, but it's going to be, we're walking into a season. We're in it right now where people need what you know. So let me just say it that way. There's a lot of people who are going through, and just kind of being a bit more practical, and to Paz's point, where people are losing these jobs. They maybe feel like they're middle aged, so they're like, who's going to hire me now? Quick example. Yesterday, I just had, hopefully a new client, prospective client call yesterday. I mean, literally, this brother was making roughly about $1 million a year, W-2, and got laid off. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, even the corporations thought that your seed was valuable. Imagine what the marketplace is going to say. If the corporation is willing to pay you $1 million a year, the marketplace will make you one of the wealthiest people in the country. But if you've only been in a corporate system, it's hard for your brain to piece that all together. And so, my main objective and, going forward is to have the tools and the resources and the organized system to help people like that, who they clearly have excellent seed. They clearly know what they know how to do really well. But what they don't know how to do is they may not know how to run a business. They may not know how to produce financial reports. They may not know, organizational development. They may not know business development. All these pieces that are so important to growing a sustainable company. They may not know that. All they know is, I know how to build the best widget than anybody on the Eastern Seaboard. And that's all you need. And we want to be a resource to those kind of folks who are in transition and trying to figure out, how do I really make this shift happen? And as I said earlier, as you being in that space, then all of the other things start popping up around capital. Capital is a big conversation, in the entrepreneurship world, and who's going to fund my business to help it grow, to help put me on a level playing field. And it's one thing to think about paying your own bills. It's another thing to think about actually running a business where you can hire other people and pay their bills, but mainly to get the right people on the team and paying for them so you can scale this thing. And some people, hey, listen, we got serial entrepreneurs out here. Some people really see business as an investment. And that's why the intrigue around buying companies is exciting for some folks, because they'll just say, okay, wow, tell me more about that company again. And what was their cash flow, and who's operating it, and how many contracts do they have? And, all these different little pieces. And next thing is, hey, count me in, man. I got XYZ amount. See if they'll bite on that number. It's just like selling a house, and they say, yeah, hey, listen, I'm in a bad fix. I'll take it. Right. And these folks will come in, look at the cash flow, say, okay, I want to have a strategic exit. I want to be out of here in 3 to 5 years, but I bought it for $3 million. I want to sell it for 30. How do I do that? And they increase cash flow, hire good people, flip it, and you just made a 10x opportunity, right? So these are things that are happening. And I just want to make sure, as we're going through this shift and this change, that we are positioning ourselves across the board in all forms of investing opportunities. And, I sent out the note, and Aderonke mentioned this, around it's in your DNA. This is about I guess this was in November. And I was on an advisory board for the Central Florida Foundation, which is the community foundation for Orlando area in Florida. and we were just having a conversation about the best way to really educate around charitable giving. And I always try to make sure that in rooms like that, where there's maybe not a lot of Black people, that we talk about what charity and charitable giving and experiences look like in the working class, middle class Black community. And when you start taking a look at people who are working class and even middle class, and how they give back to nonprofits and causes and church and things like that, it's much more specific to them and their family and their heritage and the parents and grandparents. It's much more built into their DNA, if you will. It's in many ways, charitable giving is genetic, and it's to, like, you think about it just on a more practical level. I remember when I was a kid, we would participate in baseball. We're in the baseball team, or the nonprofit, Pop Warner football team, or these organizations that were started to keep the kids busy. And so parents, count me in, like, we're gonna anything to keep little Johnny out of trouble, right? Or it was at your church, and the just kind of the whole religious method of tithing and 10%, and let me sow my seed into this ministry that will give me back spiritual covering and protection and a fellowship and a family. And so it's much more specific. And you find that a lot of working class and middle class folks are charitable because it's part of their day-to-day DNA. And it's important for us to really unpack our DNA in terms of our history and what we know and what we've been exposed to, as well as those things that make us unique in terms of our interests, our abilities, and the things that we're pursuing. And when you connect those dots and apply it to, let's just say, investing, and you begin to invest and support things that you know and understand, and become more engaged in that environment, and having conversations where you can actually lend something you didn't think you may be able to, like, especially if you are, so let's say you're speaking with someone who is a business owner in a community that you know really well, and maybe that person is not from that community, but they've started the business, they're entrepreneurs, they're going, they're making it happen, and then they have one conversation with you, and you opened up just a world of opportunity, a world of markets that they just didn't know about because they're not from there. They don't know the history of the place. They don't know old man Williams down the street who would buy us stuff if he knew that this was there. Like, it's important to understand your DNA, and then lend it in this investment space, to have these conversations with current investors and stakeholders and people who have businesses and all of that, and you'll find that your what you know and what you think, what you take very as like a secondhand thing, like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I know. It's everything. It's the missing link for a lot of folks, and I just want to we try to use these calls to wake up stuff that's already there, just so, because a lot of times we think, I don't really, I don't really know much. All I know is this, and that's it, and I can tell you, like, maybe to you that's the case, but when you have a conversation with somebody else who doesn't have what what's second nature to you, it changes everything, and so I want to make sure that we begin to not only reduce our excuses, but we increase our willingness to act on our own understanding of things. Willing to lend it's like, what happens is that you don't realize you know a lot until you're in a situation, like you're in a meeting, right? And you're in a meeting with a group of other people. And they started asking questions about these different things. The next thing you know, you're looking around the room and you're like, y'all really don't know this? I mean, really, like, but we try not to even get in those rooms to even lend ourselves to it. You know, but when you're sitting in the room and people are talking about, well, we need this, we need that. Next thing you know, you're like, well, you know, you can get that, you know, from here. You just got to go to XYZ, and like, oh, for real? I mean, really, and I'm not trying to oversimplify this. I'm just saying that what you have, what you know, your experiences, your interests is extremely valuable to people who don't have it. And what they have may be extremely valuable to the things you're trying to accomplish. And so we have to be in this spirit of networking and connecting. And when I say networking, I don't mean, you know, showing up at the Chamber of Commerce and, you know, slapping hands with people and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's a lot of times people say, I'm an introvert. I don't like to talk to people. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, I'll give you another example. When early in my career in business development, I read a book. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was a book about how to access the real people you want to do business with. And it talked about joining boards. And I'll tell you the truth, it was kind of a game changer for me personally in business, because one, and this kind of goes back to the whole DNA, the charitable DNA, the whole nine. And actually, I'm writing this article right now for the Central Florida Foundation on the charitable DNA. And this topic is something I need to add to this piece. But when you start thinking about the organizations, the causes that matter to you, and you find and you get involved and you start supporting it, you show up, you volunteer, you financially support, it won't be long. You don't even have to ask. It won't be long before they'll say, hey, you know, thank you for your, you know, level of support. Will you join our board? And, you know, and most times you can go on a website, you can take a look at all the board members. And you realize at that point, you know what I'm working on right now and what I'm trying to accomplish in this form or another, a lot of those folks are in this room. And they're in the room, and I want to, and if I join this board, I could not only get access to people I want to potentially do business with or connect with, but I feel confident that my interest in this organization is going to add value to the organization. And so it's important to not be random in how you spend time with organizations and things like that, but to really dive into your DNA, dive into the things that you already know and understand, dive into your experiences, dive into, you know, if you went to a certain high school and there's an organization that's doing good work, or maybe you were a beneficiary of some of that work that they did when you were in high school, that sounds like an organization that could use your resources, that could use your knowledge, that could use your expertise. You know, you are a product of the product. You know, you benefited from those services. You know, these are things that was something that you can lend an actual story to, and a compelling story that somebody else is going to benefit from that, because you can tell the details of what happened when you were there, when you benefited from it. You know, so I'm saying all these things to say that as we move in this new lane that's happening, and this new shift that we're getting ready and we're going through right now, being in a position to leverage your own experiences, be clear about your interests, like spend time thinking about what you're working toward, and begin to just connect the dots. You know, I could say networking doesn't always have to be glad-handed, you know, and showing up at stuff and, you know, wearing your suits and all that. It doesn't always have to be that. It can just be a natural connection of interest and opportunity. things that you're interested in, information that you bring to the table, connections that are out there that, and again, I want to say this before we finish up, because again, a lot of times folks are like, oh man, I don't want to speak and tell my story. But when it's the closer you get to your DNA, meaning the closer you get to life experience things that is just easy to talk about, you don't have to do much selling. You don't have to, oh yeah, my name is Byron Deese and this is what I'm doing and this is why. You don't even have to give that spiel. You'll show up and the first thing say, oh, well, one of the reasons why I joined is, 30 years ago, I participated in this. I was a beneficiary of this, or, a couple of years back, my client worked here and she did X, Y, and Z, and she inspired me to do it. Or, my aunt was a member of this, and I remember how it benefited her, or my granddad actually worked around the corner from there. And he used to talk about this, like whenever you can give these specific stories, these personal accounts, lived experiences like that, these are now become organizations and businesses and, places you probably should lend more time to. You probably should invest there. You probably should donate there. You probably should network there. Like, that's what I mean by DNA. Tap into your DNA. Just like earlier, Adirante shared that she looked at opportunities and properties in Nigeria. Oh, why is that important? Because that's lived experience, family history, going back and participating in things that she's knows the history of, so just really getting closer to where you can add value versus being a little bit too exotic. Right now, I'm a big believer in portfolio management, so yeah, you should always have room in your portfolio for, things that are quote unquote exotic or a bit more risky, or kind of, you may not know anything about it, but you heard that there was an opportunity there and you can make money. Yeah, leave a little room, maybe 10, 15% of your portfolio for things like that. But the bulk of your portfolio and your investments and your time should really be in line with things that you can bring something to it. You have some type of understanding of it to be able to build and increase not only your net worth, but also your impact in those areas. And so these things, and as we're beginning this process of talking about sowing seeds, the process of really tapping deeper into kind of your philosophies and your DNA and your experiences, as we begin this process of building institutions, and whether it be community institutions, business institutions, financial and generational wealth, whatever that is, these are kind of these steps that will give you more confidence to pursue and be much more willing to get in that game. Because again, like I say, this is lots of opportunity is being laid out and presented to us. And I shouldn't say presented to us, but it's out there. When we think about investment opportunities to give back and support, make an impact in community organizations and in your community, purchasing and staffing companies, and these things are here. So for the purpose of this call, I wanted to make sure that we at least talked about these things on the surface. And I would say, if it's even tickled your fancy at all, let's schedule time and talk it through in more detail and unpack your situation. Go to the website, dreammakersnetwork.org. You can schedule time on the calendar there. We can lock in some time just to kind of dive into it, because you just never know, man. You never know what is really available to you, and you never realize, like, there's so many ways from a financial perspective and as a financial advisory perspective. you think a lot of times we think we don't have any money, but capital is available capital is definitely available for enterprising entrepreneurs or enterprising investors. There are people who may not have the time to become an operator in something, but they have the money. And if you are the operator and you can sell that dream to the investor, whether it be a bank or just an individual resources, there you go. And you can be, and even as like Adirante talked about, sometimes you say, well, I got X amount, but I can only pay it to you over time. Some people say, okay, cool, that works for me too. Like you just never know. So let's lock in time, talk through some of these strategies, see what works best for you, even map out a plan that would be beneficial for what you're working on and what you identify as progress for your personal bottom line and your interests. Because listen, the last thing is you don't want to be in a situation where you are involved in something, you have money tied up in it and the whole nine, but you're not really interested in it. Maybe somebody talked you into investing in something that you just, you're like, I want to be supportive. Listen, I have some clients who have really big hearts, big hearts, and want to help as many people as they can. And then we start having questions about like, who is this person? How did this person get on the job? And why'd you buy that again? Like, and it's just, I was trying to help this and that and the other. So again, there are folks who are supporting things just out of pure charity, but there's also, people who have the resource, but they just don't have the time. And if they looked and saw someone who has the skills and the time, opportunities can happen. So that's all I got. It's 9:00. Let's take a second, open up the call. Anybody have any questions, comments about today's call? I'm thankful to all of you who are joined in today. It's truly been a blessing for me. But we'll open up the call now. All right, good people.
I just want to say thank you for acknowledging, like you talked about the brother who lost his job and he was making, I think you said 25. I forget you said up and down like he was making. But when you said that and recognizing that his company recognized what he was worth and what that would look like for him and the outside and as an independent person, that has been my reality right now, and I'm learning. Like my goal for this year is to really get my back office stuff together, and I'm working with Alex as we speak to pull together the accounting side of things.
Yay!
But recognize individual skills and values, what those skills are, and how they can be used in other places. I've been in education essentially my whole career, and I've always dibbled and dabbled other things. But now the other things, I'm in other things and I'm doing the work that I've done in education over here. And it looks so different. My days are different. And I just have so much more time. And now I can look at how I can really bring into the creative things that bring me another level of joy while this other thing is paying my bills. So that's my goal, is to put all those things together. But the industry is paying for the skills that I was essentially giving away in the education space.
Listen, Todd said two things that I need to touch on real quick. Number one, she mentioned that she's working with Alex, and I'm going to bring Alex on the call. Alex is, so for actually just a quick backstory. So some of you may know as when I was working with Glass Jacobson and we offered tax, accounting, investment management, insurance, all of it, all of the services that's needed to help a business owner or entrepreneur run their business, right? And so, but then the company went through an acquisition, lost the tax team. So we were just kind of just like any other wealth management company at that time. So I had to go out and find a tax advisor who could help me continue that model of a one-stop shop for financial operations, investment management, strategy and planning, all of that. And through a little bit of trial and error, landed on working with Alex Franks and the G&A consulting group, which these guys, I mean, just they've been a godsend for my business. And not only just providing, tax compliance, helping people file their taxes, but the advisory piece is important for my business. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you have somebody who's doing your taxes and it's your cousin or whoever, family friend, that's fine. You can keep them. If you don't want to rock the boat, that's perfectly fine. But in terms of growing a business, we need advisors. We need tax advisors who can help add to the strategy of what we're trying to do, and also the bookkeeping, because in this business of exit planning and acquisition and value creation, the books are important. Making sure that your financial house, you have proper financials, profit loss, income statement, balance sheet, accounts receivable, aging, like just really understanding the financials of the company. That's a big part, and we need very competent CPAs on that. And so, in many cases, we'll start out where you kept your person who's filing your taxes, but we're working on the growth. Alex and his team, they're awesome, and so I'm going to bring him on so you guys get a chance to meet Alex, young brother from Baltimore, went to Morgan. Now I say young brother, you're younger than me, but he's actually, probably 40 or something like that. But good, a great brother. And then the other part, Tyson, I think is very important for us to talk about. And this is specific to what's happening in this whole process of Doge and just trying to create a small government. And I'm gonna say this, and before we jump on this, I've had conversations with a lot of my Republican friends. And all my life, man. I mean, I was born when Jimmy Carter was president, and so when the wave of Reagan came in, was really, I would say, definitely in my lifetime, but maybe even before. But when Reagan came in, he talked about small government and that being kind of the model of one of the cornerstones of Republican theology, if you will. I should say theology, but definitely the core of their policy agenda. It's in many ways it's really been rhetoric. We're talking about small government, tax cuts, but you can't have a small government if you spending, because tax cuts are spending. But what Trump and these guys are doing with Doge is realistically what you would think small government is, what they've been preaching. He's trying to go down as the president who actually did it, who actually cut government, the federal government, down to size or down to wherever they think it should be. So elections have consequences. That's what's about to happen. I say that to say, when the Department of Education is projected to cut about $800 to $900 million from the budget, which means whatever they were doing on the federal side, they're just kicking that down to the states. And this time more than ever, the folks who have expertise in the education space, listen, this is really the time for education professionals to leverage their skills, to raise capital, to acquire entities, to offer to gain new contracts through the expertise. Like, this is a great scaling opportunity in this quote unquote privatization of education. It's one thing to fight the headwinds and it's another to understand it and position yourself to win in this market. And the good part is we need what we need more people who are fighting right now to know how to win, because the challenge is that if all of the people who are fighting and have all this expertise, and we lose them, and they're not a part of the education strategy and system going forward, and so the leaders of all of the new headwind, the what we will see now is the new education system going forward, are folks who have a different philosophy, a different viewpoint on how education should be provided. We're in trouble. There's a mass group of folks that will be in trouble, and even the folks who they think they're helping will be in trouble. And that's just my own personal viewpoint. So we need more, quote unquote, of our own winning in this new environment. And so education entrepreneurs this is a very important topic. I can't even stress it. So that's something. Listen, we can have a whole other topic on that, right? And we should, right? And so, Ty, I really want to get with you and talk about this in some more detail, because we have to begin the process of education around, and I hate to say it this way because people will say, "Oh, Dees, what are you talking about?" But we have to recognize that we're walking into capitalism in the form that we probably hadn't seen it before, or at least in our lifetime. If you know anything about the Gilded Age, that we're headed in that realm, right? Where there's like 10 major corporations, and then everything else falls under that. Don't be surprised if Amazon is now, takes over UPS and, the mail system, right? The post office. Like, oh, don't be surprised. I mean, just really start lining all these things up like the Gilded Age. But we just have to know what that means, how that works, and who won during that time, and how do we play and not just become part of the menu, but actually be prepared to build something great and still add value to the marketplace. We have to be prepared for that. So let's talk offline of that, because I'm glad you talked a little bit about your thoughts and your experience on the education side, because we're there. It's happening. It's not theory anymore. The election's over, and I wish somebody would tell JD Vance the election's over so he can, but that's another topic. Anybody else have any questions or comments before we finish up for the day?
No, but it's a good call. Thank you for everybody that got on, man. Another great one.
All right, let's do it. Have a great weekend, folks. Let's connect. I know it was a lot of information dumped today, and I get it. There's a lot of information, but hopefully things for you to think about. Go to the website, dreammakersnetwork.com. I'm sorry, dreammakersnetwork.org. Also go to our Engage Wealth website. It's engage-wealth.com, engage-wealth.com. Let's schedule time. Let's just talk this stuff through. Again, there's a lot of information shared, but it's a lot that we can do. And so I'm looking forward to connecting with everyone here soon. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Take care.
This session is no longer being recorded. Goodbye.